Well, good morning, everyone. We're coming to you from Trina Robbins' house. Trina Robbins is an expert on women in comics and has several books out. She has a new book that comes out on Monday. So by the time
Tuesday.
on Tuesday?
It's a birthday present. My birthday is Monday. The book is out on Tuesday. It's
Oh my
birthday
goodness.
present.
And Trina, I won't say how old you're going to be, but I know that it's a fabulous number. And happy birthday.
Thank you.
Okay, so the new book is called Flapper Queens. What inspired you to tackle flapper comics? I didn't even know they existed.
Well, of course, that's why I wrote this book. The thing is that I had written about Nell Brinkley, but there were other women who did gorgeous full-color Sunday pages and also lovely, lovely black and white newspaper pages, the same period throughout the 20s. And they were incredibly good, and they don't have books. Nell has a book, but they don't have books. And some of them, like Virginia Houget, wait, I'm going to show you a Virginia Houget page. Of course, you have to see this in person, face to face, because the art is even this big.
Well, hold it a little more still. Just hold it still. Oh, wow.
This is Virginia Houget, who has really gone unrecognized. I have written about her a small amount in my histories of women cartoonists, but you know, that includes everyone, so you can't really go in depth, and never has her art been shown in full color. And she was amazing, and people don't really know about her. So I was so happy to write this book because I could showcase, I mean, there are lots of other women in the black and white section, but I could showcase three, you know, Nell, of course, Nell Brinkley, Virginia Houget, and Ethel Hayes, who's another one who deserves her own book. I mean, these women are incredible. So I finally got them on in print in a book. They're real full color, beautiful art. And then there's black and white art by women who they didn't get to do color pages, but they were in the newspapers doing wonderful black and white art. One woman who I discovered, let's see if I can find a page by her, Edith Stevens. Edith Stevens, this is what Edith looked like. You can see she was a tiny bit tubby, and she was known as the Kate Smith of the drawing board, which I just love. And she did these wonderful black and white pages that basically were about, they were about fashion, and they're very cute and they're very funny. Let's see if I can get one of these pages up.
Yeah, yes.
And I discovered her because her nephew, who just happens to be a designer, mailed me. He didn't know I was going to be working on this book, but since I had already done Pretty in Ink, he thought I'd be interested in his aunt.
Yes.
And of course I said, wow, this is perfect for my next book. So this is so great because it features people that you have never seen before and who are just so good. But there's another thing about the flapper cartoonists, the flapper queens. And that is, you know, to understand the revolution they had had. 1920, 100 years ago, they got the vote. And just, if you will just take a look at a photo of a woman from 10 years earlier, 1910, no, let's make it 1915 to 1925 and just compare them. And it's amazing. We've never had a fashion revolution like that before. I mean, the women, they cut their hair off, they cut their skirts to their knees, and sometimes even above their knees. The change was incredible. It's a century worth of change in 10 years. And the other thing, of course, that is a little sad is they thought, okay, we've got the vote, we're equal now. And, you know, they had no idea. They had no idea. You know, as always, every time women make some kind of a stride forward, they're pushed 2 steps back. And they didn't understand that having the vote was not enough. Abortion was still illegal. You could not open a checking account without your either father or husband's permission. Married women had to have their husband's permission to open a checking account. There were so many things still in their way, so many obstructions. We're still fighting those obstructions. But they thought it was this wonderful 10 years during which they thought they had complete equality. And so their lives, they were joyous. Their lives were filled with joy.
That's spectacular. So you talked about how you got information on the one woman from his, it was his aunt, but how did you find all of these other women? How did you find all of this art? How did you discover it all?
Newspapers, really. They were newspaper artists. A lot of these women had been in my book, Pretty in Ink. So I had been researching women who drew comics for a long time. But again, in Pretty in Ink, it's an overview. You can't include all their stuff. But the thing is, I had the names. So I could search for them in old newspapers. And I found so much by them.
That's spectacular. What do you think you were most surprised by in making the book?
I can't say I was most surprised by the talent, because really, I already knew from all of my research, I already knew how talented these women were, even though nobody wrote about them before. So I really couldn't say. I mean, my discoveries were wonderful and were a lot of fun, but none of them were a surprise. I expected to find great art, and I did.
You've showed me some of your favorites. Is there your absolute favorite comic? You talk about the cover. Why do you like the art you chose for the cover?
I didn't. My brilliant designer, Fantagraphics designer, chose this. It was a complete surprise to me when they sent me an attachment and said, this is the cover. And it's really just a little piece of a page, a small piece of a page by Ethel Hayes. And I loved it. And I don't know if you can tell here, but the blue is metallic, shiny blue. This is the most beautifully designed book I have ever seen. And that all goes to the designer. All I did was include the art. Here's another Ethel Hayes page. This really has to be seen in person.
Oh, gosh.
She was fantastic. Well, they all were. But, people look at her work for the first time and it's just the way people reacted to Nell Brinkley when they saw her work for the first time. It just amazed them. And here, of course, is some of Nell Brinkley's wonderful art. A lot of Brinkley in here. She spanned the century almost, really. Her last art is from 1937.
So just
and she started in oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So just before World War II is when they all kind of faded, maybe? Did anything continue into the World War II?
No, I think what really might have meant the end of Flapper was the Depression. So they really faded. This is Ethel Hayes again. Oh no, this is Nell Brinkley, sorry. They really faded maybe before, I think maybe, late 30s, just before World War II. You had the Depression, you had war looming, and just suddenly people were more serious. I mean, the Flappers, everything is so happy. I mean, they're Charlestoning their way through life. And all of a sudden, reality pokes its nose in. First you have the Depression, then you have war coming, and they just the world became too serious for the Flappers.
It kind of reminds me of the seriousness our world is in right now, and this brings so much joy just looking at it. That this is a really joyful book to have. in a time that is feeling so dark right now. So
I
that's a
can't,
really great reason to have it in the house and have
I
something
can't
to
keep
write.
this is an advanced copy, of course, and I just can't keep my eyes off it. I just will pick it up and thumb through it over and over and over again. Let's talk about some of the women. Again, Virginia Huget. And by the way, I was very lucky to be contacted by her niece, Virginia Huget's niece, who filled me in on a lot of information on her so that I know about her and I know what she did and who she was. This is kind of a charming addendum, really. In the mid-1930s, early to mid-1930s, Virginia Huget did a series of ads for Lux soap. Now, if you know old newspapers and old magazines, you know a lot of the ads were in comic form. And I wish they still did that because it's so much fun. So this is one of her ads that she did for Lux soap. And the heroine is named Peggy Lux. And she basically, she even runs for president in this strip. Let's see if I can find, see if I can find Peggy Lux for president here.
And what year was that? And we still haven't gotten
that's right. That's right. 1935.
Oh, man. If only.
Here we are. Peggy Lux for president.
Wow.
And her whole thing was she can show heartbroken young women how to save their lives, their romances, by either one, washing their stockings, their lovely little silk stockings in Lux soap, because that cuts down on runs, so they aren't being driven to the poorhouse, just constantly having to buy new stockings. And the other is because if you wash your dainty underthings in Lux soap, it removes harmful body odors and makes them dainty again so that their husbands will love them all over again and so that they will get boyfriends and husbands. One of these Peggy Lux ads, there's an old maid's home. Oh, here it is. Peggy Lux and the Old Maids.
Oh no, they look so old too.
And they have a special home for old maids, as you can see.
My
and
goodness.
So she goes in there and teaches them how to wash their delicate undies in Lux soap and remove body odor. And at the end, they all have boyfriends.
Well, it's such a nice service for her to provide. She definitely needs to be president for that. It's a whole different platform.
But it's just so charming that 15 years after having gotten a vote, they're just coming up with the concept that why can't a woman run for president?
Absolutely. Oh, I had thought of something and then I lost it. So were most of these women married? It seems that you've gotten a lot of information from nieces and nephews. Did a lot of these women have children as well?
Ethel Hayes had 3 kids, and she did so many strips, really, that she was so busy that when she gave birth to her 3rd child, she had to pass at least one of the strips on to another cartoonist and to a woman cartoonist. It was kind of woman to woman to woman because she passed the strip on to Gladys Parker. And it just so happens that I have a book just about Gladys Parker coming out in January, I'm sorry. And the strip was called Flapper Fanny, so it was definitely a flapper strip. And Gladys Parker did it, and she changed it. You know, as each woman got a strip, they would change it a little. So let's see if I can find it. So she passed Flapper Fanny on to Gladys Parker, who was just beginning cartoonist. And Gladys Parker started doing the strip on Sundays in color, and she added a very cute little kid sister to Flapper Fanny. And these are some of her strips. And then she passed the strip on to Sylvia Sneidman and went on to do her own strip, which was called Mopsy. And that's the subject of the book that's coming out in January. So it was sisterhood, really, you know. Each one passes the strip on to another woman. By that time, of course, Flapper was passé, so Sylvia Sneidman retired it. But it's nice to see how that happened.
It's inspirational. I think it's a good thing for us to all think about as we work on things and helping to lift up the younger women that are, you know, setting out to do great things.
Oh
So,
my God, and the younger women cartoonists these days there are so many of them and they're so good. There's so many different styles. Just like there were so many different styles in the newspapers in the Flapper days. I mean, you didn't have to conform to a certain house style. They all were individuals.
well, I think we've gotten quite a bit done. And Trina, can I tell you how much it lifts my spirits just to chat with you? And just
Oh
hearing your
gosh,
voice and seeing you makes me so happy.
Christy, me too. It's so nice to see you.
Thank you so much, Trina. I'm so
Thank
sorry that
you. Okay, goodbye. It was wonderful.